Hello, Gold viewers from around the world. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC here at Gold. And today I have a special guest here with me. It's Kimberly Johnson. And hi, Kimberly. It's good to have you here.
Hi, Kristen. Thanks for having me.
And Kimberly, you will be speaking at our upcoming Gold Birth and Beyond Symposium here of 2022. We're all very excited about it. But before we get into the topic, I want our listeners and viewers to get to know you a little bit better. So I know you are a sexological body worker and a somatic experiencing trauma resolving practitioner and so much more, an author, tell us a little bit, first of all, what is that? Because I think I can imagine many people hear that and say, whoa, what is this? Give us a little information here.
Sexological bodywork is a kind of bodywork that includes the pelvis and includes genitals. So within the scope of practice, it could mean many different things. But in my case, it means that I specialize in helping women prepare for birth, recover from birth, recover from gynecological surgeries and procedures, and repair sexual boundary ruptures. And the sexological bodywork is part of what trained me in how to do that touch work.
Absolutely fascinating. And I'm so grateful that you're doing this kind of work, because I feel like women after birth are just left to their own, it's like obviously, and it goes back generations and generations, right? That even our mothers and grandmothers were taught, okay, you had a baby, be prepared every time you sneeze, you wet your underwear, or it's normal that you can't, that you can't hold your urine in as well anymore, and or that it hurts after while you're having sex now after having a baby, and it shouldn't be like that. And I've been talking about this for like many years, that I feel like, why are we why do we let this still happen? This shouldn't be. And I am so grateful that you're doing this work out there. And I feel like, and this is also part of why we're doing this here at Gold, is we need to talk about this more, because women don't even know this is available to them, right?
It's true. I think after my first book came out, which is The Fourth Trimester, and that was 5 years ago, I do feel like there's a lot more information on the physical changes that happen, and emotional and sexual and spiritual, when we become mothers. There's more people talking about it. But oftentimes we're so underwater after having kids that
Yes.
it's hard for us to even recognize what's happening when it's happening, or let it come to the surface far enough that we take care of ourselves. So it is really important work, because whenever we feel that sense of insecurity, in terms of like what you were mentioning, if we feel like if we maybe jump up and down, we might leak. We sort of stop doing things sometimes without even knowing that we stop doing them. And our life gets a little bit narrower because we're unconsciously worried about things like that. And so it's really important to know that although those symptoms are common, they're not normal. And there are things that we can do to come to full recovery.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. You mentioned your book. I have it here, and you are so generous to send us these books. So we are giving these books away during the symposium. So some of our lucky winners will get these wonderful copies. I have to tell you, I love this book. I will use it for my own families that I'm serving, the communities. I have shared this information with fellow midwives and birth workers. There's so much good information in there. The Fourth Trimester, a postpartum guide to healing your body, balancing your emotions, and restoring your vitality. And we feel like we are often, even as care providers, and I count myself in there as well, we focus so much on pregnancy and the birth. And then postpartum hits, and people often don't know really what hit them, right? They're still healing, especially families. They're still healing from birth themselves. Maybe it was a traumatic birth, maybe it wasn't a birth that they had how they planned it, right? They're sleep deprived. The hormones are going, trying to go back to the pre-pregnancy way of being, slowly but surely. Then there is breastfeeding, breast and chest feeding. So there is a lot going on, and often these families these mothers are just left to their own, on their own, and don't have any support. And for me, that always feels like a recipe for disaster, right?
Yeah, there's so much there. But what I like to tell people is that everything that a new baby needs, a new mother also needs.
Hmm.
And so there's ways to make it kind of complicated, but there's also ways to simplify it, that we just need uh support, we need swaddling, we need, a
Hmm.
lot of times mothers find themselves alone all day with an
Yeah.
infant. And
Yeah.
then what we have to offer is all of these maternal health, mental health diagnoses. But
Hmm.
there's principles that are much more foundational. And it makes a lot of sense that care providers and mothers themselves are really focused on the birth, especially first time moms. Unfortunately, it's usually people who have a hard time postpartum the first time, then they find the book because they're like, okay, I got to do something different. And my hope would be that this book wouldn't just be for mothers, the book would be for aunts and sisters and our mothers, because
Right.
it's sometimes hard for us to say to our own mothers, like, hey, I need more, because they didn't have what they needed. And so they
Right.
feel like it's princessy, or like, why do you need all this stuff? I didn't have any
Right.
of this stuff. But when
It.
they have something to read that has some data behind it, it starts to make sense. And then they can have repair for themselves when they
Mhm.
recognize, like, wow, no wonder I needed a surgical repair. No wonder I felt
Yeah.
disoriented for 3 years, because these needs are not, they're not individual. They're, every single person who has a baby has these needs afterwards. It's just that our culture has a real blind spot when it comes to it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's an excellent point. This book is also, yeah, for family members, for the grandmothers to be, for aunts and for sisters. Yeah, because you're absolutely right. They, they might did not have often their support either, and so everybody thinks, oh, this is just the way it is. Get over it. Get with it. This is how we do things here in this, in our society. So, but it doesn't have to be. And if we have something to read and to prepare for, so even prenatally, even before, maybe hopefully that would be my hope, that people take this information to heart even before they are having a baby, before they're planning to have a baby, so that to know it's not all focused only on the birth and the pregnancy, but also what comes after, and involve the entire family or friends or whoever is involved, loving this family, to get them involved with this too. And I love you have also a journal with that. That's also a fantastic idea with that. And cards, man, these cards are beautiful too. Um, how did you get inspired to come up with all this? Was it
Uh,
your own journey or?
yeah, my own journey with feeling like I really knew myself, and then becoming a mother and figuring out that a lot of the tools I had, I was a yoga teacher for a long time, and
Mhm.
I am a body worker, and I just had a really tough time recovering, and I
Mhm.
didn't know why it was so hard. And I thought
Mhm.
that I had done everything that I needed to do, and recognizing that if I couldn't figure out how to heal myself without surgery, it would be really hard for anyone else, because I had already had so many holistic tools available to me.
Yeah.
My own path of trying to heal, I was told I needed a full surgical pelvic floor reconstruction, and I knew I didn't want that. I had a home birth for a reason.
Mhm.
Uh, and so it took me 6.5 years to heal myself. But as a result of that, I learned a lot about different modalities that were helpful. And I learned a lot about earth based cultures where there's practices in place that are just normal. And those normal things have been framed as luxuries here
Yeah.
in North American culture. So I just didn't want, I wanted other women to have an easier way. And I could read technical pelvic manuals and technical other things that I felt like most people weren't going to read. So I wanted to just simplify it and put it in one place. And I knew also at that point that there were things that I could have done to prepare the relationship that I was in for that transition, that my relationship didn't survive. And that's really common, that
Mhm.
relationships don't survive the first year or two of after having a baby. So I think that book was written as a gesture towards new generations, because I wrote about an experience that I didn't have, and I thought I was going to have more kids, and I just never did. So I just had one, and so yeah, it was the feeling of looking around. I was Google
Mhm.
searching, and I was putting holistic postpartum healing, alternative postpartum care, and nothing was coming up besides postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And I knew I was feeling kind of depressed, but I was like, well, yeah, I had fecal incontinence. So if you're pooping in your pants without knowing
Yeah.
it, you're going to feel depressed. And
Yeah.
so I thought, I can't believe that I'm searching for this knowledge and I can't find it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I wrote the book.
Absolutely. And you took all your knowledge that you had, all your wisdom. And what you mentioned is making, simplifying things, all these textbooks and manuals that you were able to read because of your background, and putting it all together, making it so much easier for new parents who either don't have the knowledge, the time, or, the background to collect all that, to have it and have that wonderful tool together as well. You also have a podcast, right? So talk
Yes.
about that as well.
Yeah, it used to be called the Maga Mama podcast. Some people might know it as that. Now it's called the Sex Birth Trauma podcast. And that's 5 years running this month.
Wow.
And I interview people on those topics, and then just other related topics to culture and communication, intimacy, womanhood, relationships, mothering.
So where can they everybody find that podcast?
That's on any distributor. So that's
Okay.
You can go to my website, kimberlyannjohnson.com/podcast. You can go to iTunes. You can go to whatever place that you listen to podcasts, the Sex Birth Trauma podcast.
Sex birth trauma. Thank you so much. I know that will be interested to many of our viewers. And here, another fantastic book. I'm so in love with this, The Call of the Wild, and how we heal trauma, awaken our own power, and use it for good. And this is something. So talk about this book a little bit too here.
So my first book was really about an experience that I didn't have, but that I knew was possible.
Yes.
And the second book is about helping women heal trauma, and specifically about how female nervous systems heal differently than male nervous systems. But most of the information that we get on diet and exercise and nutrition and spirituality comes from a male perspective. So I did 800 sessions hands-on over 3 years, only on birth, abortions, miscarriages, gynecological stuff, and sexual boundaries. And over that time, I realized there was kind of a 6-stage process that I needed to take each person through, which then I came to call Activate Your Inner Jaguar. And so that process is about learning how to occupy the full spectrum of the nervous system from predator to prey. So oftentimes women are conditioned into more of a flight response or a freeze response, and men are conditioned more into a fight response. And those are what the culture accepts and what we practice. And in general, what I've found is that most women need to learn how to activate a healthy fight response, healthy aggression, in order to strengthen their nervous systems and heal the experiences where they weren't able to say what they wanted to say or make the movements they needed to make to get themselves out of a dangerous situation, or towards the kind of birth experience they wanted. So many women say, like, I don't know why I didn't say this in the moment. I don't know why I couldn't speak up to my doctor. I don't know why I let that nurse do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
And they're saying it from the point of view that it was a lack of willpower, but actually that's a nervous system state. So when you're in a state of vulnerability, it's too bad that the where birth is right now, that women need to occupy 2 different states, which are actually contrasting most of the time at the same time. Like, women shouldn't have to protect themselves and release and let go at the same time. But that's where we find ourselves. And so the Call of the Wild is learning how to stay in your healthy authority and communicate from that place so that you're believable, and so that what happens in the outside world reflects your inner power.
Wow. Yes. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. This is such a game changer, this book. I absolutely love it, and I can highly recommend it to anybody out there to get this book. And now briefly to your presentation here at Gold, which is titled A New Approach to the Fourth Trimester and Postpartum Healing here. Just give us just a little nugget of wisdom or something we could look forward to in this presentation.
Well, I hope to help practitioners understand how I think a lot of practitioners feel limited to whatever their modality is.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we're in our modality, we only can get so far with someone. So I hope to give practitioners a broader scope of how we can speak about the postpartum time in a way that gives the person who's in it a lot of context, and maybe instead of categorizing things as a mental health problem or situation, that we start to see the bigger picture of all of the things that are contributing to postpartum. And in my practice, that's been the most effective thing, is helping women understand that it's not a personal problem that they're having, that they're living at the intersection of a culture that's really changing and trying to change to accommodate needs, but is very incomplete in how we do that. And so when you learn about the 5 universal postpartum needs, you start to understand, oh, here's a direction that can go for more healing to occur, for more, less depression, more life force energy, helping the person feel more like themselves and put together their own puzzle of the transformation that they're going through.
Oh, beautiful. I can't wait for the presentation, Kimberly. So thank you so very much here for being here with me today, for talking about the excellent work you're doing there, and for also about the presentation here at the Gold Birth and Beyond Symposium that's coming up very soon here at Gold. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And for our viewers now, some information. If you are interested in finding out more about this symposium here at Gold, which will be live on October 17 and 18, but everything is recorded. So if you can't make it live on those 2 days, the information, all the presentations are recorded, so you can enjoy them at a later time. If you want to find out more about this presentation and all the other presentations in the symposium, we invite you to go to goldlearning.com. Bye-bye, everyone, and I hope to see you at the conference and the symposium.
Thank you.